You don't attract the wrong people. You attract the exact people your wounds are looking for. That's not poetry. That's not some vague spiritual claim designed to make you feel deep at 2 in the morning. That's a clinical observation about how the human psyche actually operates, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every relationship you've had that ended in confusion, every friendship that slowly turned toxic, every person you swore was different this time but somehow delivered the exact same damage in a slightly different voice. None of that was random. None of it was bad luck. There's a mechanism running underneath all of it, and it's been running since before you could spell your own name. Carl Jung identified this mechanism over a century ago. He called it the shadow. And today you're going to understand not just what it is, but exactly how it's been choosing your relationships for you, without your knowledge, without your consent, and with devastating precision. If you leave this video early, you'll keep repeating the cycle. If you stay, you'll see the machine. And once you see the machine, it loses its power over you. Here's the story you've been telling yourself. You've been telling yourself that you just have bad taste, that you're too trusting, that you're a good person who keeps running into bad people, and if you could just get better at spotting red flags earlier, you'd finally break the pattern. Maybe you've even gotten better at it. Maybe you've built walls. Maybe you've learned to watch for the love bombing, the inconsistency, the little manipulations, and you feel smarter now, more guarded, more protected. But the pattern didn't stop, did it? It just changed shape. The people got subtler, or you started choosing people who were emotionally unavailable instead of overtly toxic, which felt like progress, but was actually the same wound wearing a different costume. The framework of bad luck and bad taste isn't just incomplete, it's structurally wrong. It puts the cause outside of you, which means the solution is also outside of you, which means you're permanently at the mercy of whoever walks through the door next. The real mechanism doesn't live in other people. It lives in you. Specifically, it lives in the parts of you that you've decided aren't you. Jung's concept of the shadow is one of the most misunderstood ideas in psychology. People hear shadow and think it means their dark side, their anger, their selfishness, their capacity for cruelty. That's part of it. But the shadow is much larger than that. The shadow is everything about yourself that you've repressed, denied, or disowned, because at some point in your development, expressing that part of you wasn't safe. It wasn't just your rage that got pushed into the shadow, it was your need, your vulnerability, your desire to be seen, your hunger for validation, the parts of you that someone, usually a parent, responded to with silence, ridicule, or withdrawal. Here's what most people miss. The shadow doesn't disappear when you repress it. It goes underground and starts running operations from there. It becomes the invisible filter through which you evaluate every person who enters your life. You think you're choosing people based on attraction, compatibility, shared values, but underneath that rational layer, your shadow is scanning for something very specific. It's scanning for the familiar wound. Think about this concretely. Say you grew up with a parent who was emotionally intermittent. Sometimes warm, sometimes cold, no predictable pattern. What you learned before you had language for it was that love is something you earn through vigilance. You learn to read moods, to adjust yourself, to become whatever the room needed you to be in order to receive affection. That adaptation kept you alive as a child. but it also installed a template. And now, decades later, when you meet someone who's consistently available, consistently warm, consistently present, something in you doesn't feel attraction, it feels boredom. It feels wrong, not because that person is wrong for you, but because your nervous system doesn't recognize consistent love as love. It recognizes the intermittent signal, the push and pull, the anxiety of not knowing where you stand. That's what feels like chemistry. That's what feels like connection. And that feeling is your shadow choosing for you. This is what Jung meant when he said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You'll call it bad luck. You'll call it just my type. You'll call it anything except what it actually is, which is a repressed part of your psyche engineering your relationships to recreate the original wound over and over, because the shadow doesn't want comfort. The shadow wants resolution. It keeps dragging you back to the scene of the original injury, hoping that this time with this person, you'll finally get it right. You'll finally earn the love that was withheld. You'll finally be enough. But here's the brutal part. The people your shadow selects are almost never capable of giving you that resolution. They can't be, because your shadow didn't select them for their capacity to heal you. It selected them for their capacity to wound you in the exact right way. The emotionally unavailable partner isn't a mistake. They're a casting choice. Your unconscious mind auditioned 100 people and picked the one most likely to replicate the original dynamic. And it did this while you were busy noticing their smile, their humor, the way they made you feel alive. What you were calling alive was actually activation. It was your trauma response firing, and it felt electric because danger always does. There's a second layer to this that makes it even harder to escape. It's not just that your shadow attracts certain people. It's that your shadow broadcasts to them. You're not the only one with a shadow operating beneath the surface. Everyone has one, and shadows recognize each other. The person who needs to control will find the person who learned that love means compliance. The person who needs to be rescued will find the person who learned that their only value is in saving others. These aren't coincidences. They're interlocking systems. Robert Greene observed this with surgical precision in his work on human nature. He noted that people don't just passively receive others. They actively signal their vulnerabilities through micro-behaviors they're not even aware of, the way they defer, the way they apologize too quickly, the way they laugh at things that aren't funny to keep the peace. These signals are invisible to the conscious mind, but perfectly legible to anyone whose shadow is looking for exactly that frequency. So you've got two unconscious systems, yours and theirs, negotiating a relationship contract that neither of you can see, neither of you signed, and neither of you knows how to exit. And on the surface, it looks like dating. It looks like falling in love. It looks like just how relationships are. It's not how relationships are. It's how your shadow operates when you refuse to look at it. Now, let's talk about where you actually are right now. Because understanding the mechanism is one thing. Seeing yourself inside it is another. There are two traps most people fall into once they start sensing this pattern. The first trap is overcorrection. You've been hurt enough times that you've decided the solution is armor. You screen people aggressively. You test them. You withhold yourself until they prove they're safe, and the threshold for safe keeps rising because no one can meet a standard designed to be unpassable. This feels like wisdom. It feels like self-protection, but it's avoidance wearing the mask of discernment. You're not protecting yourself from the wrong people. You're protecting your shadow from ever being seen. The second trap is collapse. You recognize the pattern, and instead of armoring up, you turn the diagnosis inward and use it as a weapon against yourself. You decide you're broken. You decide that because your unconscious keeps choosing wrong, you can't be trusted with your own heart. So you either stop choosing entirely, or you override every instinct you have and try to force yourself to want the safe person, the stable person, the one who checks all the boxes but makes your chest feel like a waiting room. That's not healing. That's dissociation with a relationship attached to it. The narrow path between these two traps isn't about choosing better people. It's about seeing yourself clearly enough that your shadow stops doing the choosing. The moment you can name what your shadow is looking for, the moment you can feel that pull toward the familiar wound and say, "I see you, I know what this is," the spell starts to break. Not all at once, not dramatically, but the grip loosens. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be witnessed by yourself. Here's what you do. Tonight, not when you're ready, tonight, you sit with a piece of paper and you write down the 3 relationships that hurt you most. Not the details, not the story, just the feeling. What was the specific emotional experience that kept repeating? Was it the feeling of never being enough? Was it the feeling of being invisible? Was it the feeling of being needed but never wanted? Find the feeling that threads through all 3. That feeling is your shadow's signature. That's the frequency it broadcasts on. That's what it's been scanning for in every room you've ever walked into. Once you name it, you do something that sounds simple, but will be one of the hardest things you've ever done. You trace it back. You ask, where did I feel this for the first time? Not the first relationship. Before that, the first time. The original room. The original voice. The original silence. You don't need to relive it. You don't need to forgive anyone. You just need to see it. Because the shadow's power isn't in the wound itself. The shadow's power is in the wound being invisible. The moment you see it clearly, without flinching, you take back the authorship of your own choices. Not perfectly, not permanently, but for the first time, the next person you feel pulled toward, you'll know whether it's your heart choosing or your wound. That's the move. Name the feeling, trace it back, see it. You came to this video thinking it was about other people, about why the wrong ones keep showing up, about what's broken in your selection process. It was never about them. It was about the version of you that you abandoned so long ago you forgot they existed. The version that needed something they never got and has been trying to get it from strangers ever since. Every wrong person was a message from that version of you, knocking on the door, saying, "Look at me. Look at what I still need. Stop sending someone else to fix this." You don't attract the wrong people. You attract the mirrors you've been refusing to look into. And the moment you turn around and face what's actually in the glass, you stop needing anyone to complete a story that was always yours to finish.